And welcome back. Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar spoke to CBS News Minnesota about the change that she wants to see following the deadly Minneapolis school shooting.
Minnesota is not alone here. This is not about one state. This is about states across the nation that have seen this, and in other countries, when they put certain laws in place, they've actually had better results.
Here with me now, White House correspondent for Semafor, Shelby Talcott, and White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Meridith McGraw. Ladies, great to see you both. Thanks so much for being here. So we've all covered so many of these mass shootings, and unfortunately, they follow kind of a familiar formula where you have the outrage, the cry from lawmakers and other officials for some kind of action on either side. And yet, I'm wondering if you think anything may be different this time, what we may expect from public officials in Washington to this.
I think it remains to be seen. And I think the thing going against the idea that this is going to be the one that drastically changes anything is the fact that we have seen it so many times before. And it does follow a familiar pattern where you have one side arguing about guns, you have another side arguing, in this case, about some of the social issues aspects of this. And so it becomes politicized very quickly. But in the weeks and months following these mass shootings, there is very little actual work done in terms of changing laws on any side of the spectrum that might prevent something like this from happening again.
Yeah, and Meredith, what's the reaction been from the White House? I mean, it was really striking to me to hear the president call Governor Walz. I mean, typically that's what you do, but they were former real political rivals, and he hasn't extended that courtesy to others before.
I mean, that was a heartening moment and something that you hope and expect any political leader would do in a moment like that. They had obviously a bitter rivalry during the presidential campaign, but you know, they spoke on the phone. We don't know the details of that phone call, but we know that throughout the day, the vice president and President Trump were getting updates, and we saw some of the responses from the FBI director and from the DHS secretary as well. And I'm sure we're going to be hearing more about the investigations that are going on. But to Shelby's point, this is not new territory for any politician, for any of us, unfortunately. And I'm thinking back to President Trump's first term after the Las Vegas shooting, after the Parkland shooting. There were, school safety meetings. The Trump administration had that bump stock ban that was eventually reversed by the Supreme Court. But, there, I'm sure, going to be similar moments of reflection. But the question, of course, is always, will we see anything new happen?
Yeah, that's a really important point, too, how he has been president during these awful tragedies and that there has been some policy to come out of it. I mean, there was also some state-level policy in Florida after Parkland. But Congress is also out of town right now. They don't come back until next week. We know kind of the passage of time is the biggest impediment to any sort of legislation on any topic. So it doesn't feel likely that any sort of momentum around anything could get through. But I'm wondering what this does for the White House's schedule this week. I mean, this kind of all comes against the backdrop of the National Guard having been deployed to D.C. and potentially elsewhere.
Yeah, I think it's an open question still, right? Right now we have the president today was sort of a quieter schedule that was already in place before this shooting happened. And so I think the question that I have is, are we going to hear from the president beyond sort of the statements that he's put out on Truth Social? Are we going to hear from the vice president? Is there going to be a trip planned? Sometimes that happens. Presidents will go visit the site of tragedies. I don't think we know the answers to that yet. And I do think if the president were to take a trip, it would probably be in the days following to give the investigation time. But it is an open question of whether this schedule changes and whether this changes anything in the next few days.
All right, well, we will keep an eye. Meridith, Shelby, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.